Hello parents, this is Miss Myers, and I just wanted to take some time to go over some of the things that we've been learning in class. I know that some of my students are really struggling, and parents have reached out to me asking if there is something that they can do to help them, if there's a study guide that they can study at home. Um, and unfortunately, that there really isn't a study guide that I can send home that would help them on the quiz. I can send some vocabulary words home that they can that they should know. That, but there is really no study guide. This is the quiz that I gave them, the mid-unit assessment that I gave them. It was broken down into two parts because it was a lot. So we're going to review the first part. So they were required to read a poem and a prose. In the original assessment that I was given for them to take, the poem and the prose were in two separate places. I didn't think that that was an easy way to compare and contrast the poem and prose, so I put them together. You can see the poem is on the left-hand side and the prose is on the right-hand side. Before we took this assessment, this was part of a lesson. So we went over this poem multiple times. We talked about all of the different aspects of the poem, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the directions: you need to identify one way they're similar and finish the sentence stem, and find a sentence from the prose that supports the similarity. Find a sentence from the poem that supports the similarity. Then you need to identify one way they are different, finish the sentence stem, find a sentence from the prose that supports the difference, find a sentence from the poem that supports the difference. This is a big thing. This is an introduction to text evidence. And text evidence is something that they are going to be required to include in almost all of their writing, all the way up until high school. So I gave them the sentence stem. In the prose it says, in the poem it says, right? So one similarity between the poem and the prose is, and they had to find it. So we could say the one similarity is they both talk about the woods, right? So to watch the woods fill up with snow, between the woods and the frozen lake. So is one similarity is they both talk about the woods. Then you can give a line from the poem that says to watch his woods fill up with snow, and for the prose you can say the lonely road between the woods and the frozen lake. That is both an example of how they are similar. One difference, and the formatting for this is off because I'm using the Word document online in the app instead of on the paper. One difference between the poem and the prose is, well, one of the most obvious differences between the poem and the prose is that the poem rhymes and the prose does not. And I've taught the students what words we look for when we're looking for rhyme. So know, though, snow, queer, late, near, year, shake, mistake, flake, deep, keep, sleep, sleep, right? And this one does not. Lake, hard, beautiful, woods, going, home. None of those rhyme. So you could say one difference between the poem and the prose is the rhyme scheme. So in the prose it says frozen lake, snowing hard, beautiful, right? In the poem it says no, though, snow. So those would both be acceptable answers. Then we had a multiple choice right here. Which of the following describes the structure of the poem? I taught the students about the structure of poetry, stanzas, and lines. I'll give you an example. This poem right here is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4 stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines that are separated by a space. So we've been drawing a line here, 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 and counting the stanzas. There are 4 lines in each of the stanzas. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And you can count all of them, so you can identify how many lines and how many stanzas. Which of the following describes the structure of the poem? The poem has 4 stanzas and 4 lines in each stanza. This is the correct answer. The poem has 4 paragraphs and 4 sentences in each paragraph. That is not correct because it has 4 stanzas, not paragraphs, and it doesn't have sentences, it has lines. The poem is made up of 16 sentences. Poetry doesn't have sentences, they have lines. The poem has 4 stanzas and 4 sentences in each stanza. A lot of students got mistaken with between A and D because they did not read the question and the answers entirely, where it says 4 sentences. That is what makes this answer wrong. I've explained what imagery is, and imagery is not a difficult concept. You think of the word image. Image is what you see, right? So if you close your eyes and you hear the poem, what do you see in your mind? And then use an example from the poem to explain your answer. They could have picked any single line from here and used it as an example of imagery, right? So to watch his woods fill up with snow. So he is sitting in the middle of the woods watching the snow fall down. He gives his harness bells a shake. He's sitting on his horse and the horse shakes his harness and the bells jingle. Right? What can you hear that? Can you see that?